find someone who loves you as much as the Cleveland Browns love their quarterbacks. Seriously, how many quarterbacks does this team need? What is this roster? Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Garrett, and I representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about the NFL Draft. We're talking about this team behind me right here, the Cleveland Browns, as we are 1 week away from the draft next Thursday in Detroit. If you're watching as of this video, you have a lot of teams finishing up their top 30 visits. Again, top 30 visits, a bit of a misnomer. What that basically means is that you're allowed 30 visits with players that are not local, and you can bring them in for private workouts and meetings and whatnot. It doesn't mean they're a top 30 player on your draft board, but it's just another way of saying that you get 30 of these private visits with these players to come to your facility. And the Cleveland Browns have done quite a few visits with quarterbacks. Yes, quarterbacks. We talked about Joe Milton from Tennessee a few weeks ago. I did a video on that. Go check that out if you haven't already. I'll leave a link in the upper right corner and a link in the description. And now we've got news that they're interested in another quarterback, Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt. This according to a report, which I will leave up here, that says that the Browns have met with Michael Pratt on a top 30 visit. So that's now 2 top 30 visits, 2 private visits given to quarterbacks. So Michael Pratt, very good player with the Green Wave, played 4 seasons at Tulane, 90 touchdowns, 26 picks. Last season was absolutely sensational. He was the American Offensive Player of the Year, 65.4% completion percentage, 22 touchdowns, 5 picks. What you have to like about Pratt, if you're just looking at the box score, improved completion percentage year to year. His accuracy improved every single year, so there is a lot of development there. He is projected by many as the 7th or the 8th quarterback off the board. How a lot of people view this draft class is in tiers. So obviously tier 1, the guys that are shoo-ins to go round 1. You got Caleb Williams, he's going to go first overall to the Chicago Bears. Jaden Daniels, probably at this point going 2 to the Commanders. Drake May, probably going 3 to the New England Patriots out of UNC. And then J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. That's tier 1. Tier 2, your late first round, second round guys, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. And then you got tier 3 with 2 quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler, Michael Pratt. It seems like Pratt will be 3rd round or an early 4th round pick. He'll be the 7th or the 8th quarterback off the board. A lot of teams interested in Pratt. I'm just very confused as to why the Cleveland Browns have scheduled a top 30 visit with this guy and what on earth is in it for them. The Cleveland Browns have an absolutely loaded quarterback room with so many guys in it. Obviously, Deshaun Watson is your QB1, but you signed Jameis Winston this offseason as your QB2. You gave him $8.7 million. You signed Tyler Huntley as QB3. You signed him before the draft. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the guy you drafted last year, who looked very good in preseason, obviously didn't look that good in the regular season, but in the preseason, he balled out, especially in that Hall of Fame game against the New York Jets. He is QB4. You're only carrying 4 quarterbacks going into the 90-man roster in all likelihood, because you cannot split the reps 5 ways. I mean, I guess theoretically you could, but I don't even know how that would work. Splitting reps 5 ways, no team does that going into training camp on a 90-man roster. This seems like a giant waste of a visit, even more so than Joe Milton. Because here's the thing, at least Joe Milton might not get drafted. You could theoretically convince him to come to Cleveland as an undrafted free agent. Now, I don't know why Milton would want to do that. I have no clue what would be in it for him. Hey, come to Cleveland, you will have no shot at making the roster, and you're going to be the 5th quarterback. You'll have to earn any reps you can possibly get. You're probably not going to play it all, but at least there's that possibility. With Michael Pratt, he's going to get drafted. There's no scenario where Michael Pratt does not get drafted, so it doesn't make any sense why you would schedule a top 30 visit for the guy, especially because you don't have a lot of draft picks as it is. You're not drafting the guy. You have 3 picks inside the top 200. That's it. You're not wasting one of them on a quarterback that is never going to play for you, and it's not going to be your number 2 guy even, and that's projected to go anywhere from round 3 through 4, because you gave up a boatload of picks in the Deshaun Watson trade. You gave picks for Jerry Jeudy. You have no draft capital to work with. You have no draft capital early on to work with. 3 picks inside the top 200. Pratt is going to be long gone unless he wastes one of those picks on a quarterback, and it wouldn't seem to make a whole lot of sense considering your roster and considering the fact that you got Jameis Winston as your backup and Tyler Huntley as your 3rd string quarterback as to why you would do that. At least Joe Milton, look, you might be able to stash him on the practice squad and make him an emergency quarterback. At least there is a scenario where Joe Milton could make the team. There is a crazy scenario where that could happen. You could see Milton beating out DTR. You could trade DTR. You could stash Milton on the practice squad. Maybe some teams won't take him, and you make him QB4 and you just call him up every now and then, and you roll with 3 quarterbacks with Watson, Winston, and Huntley, and then you have Milne on the practice squad as QB4, you can elevate him to QB3. If someone gets hurt, you could do that, but you're not going to be able to stash Pratt on the practice squad. He would get claimed right away by most teams in this league, because again, a lot of teams have a 3rd round, 4th round grade on this guy, maybe even a 2nd round grade on this guy. Who knows? So I don't see what the point of getting Michael Pratt is and making him get a top 30 visit with the Browns, because again, you can't stash him on the practice squad. A team would claim him immediately. And it doesn't make sense to draft him as a backup quarterback because you gave Winston a lot of money to do that for this season. Unless the idea is to have him be QB2 in 2025, that at least would make some sense. I would follow the logic there to some regard if you're saying, look, we don't believe in DTR. We don't believe that Thompson Robinson's that good. He didn't show anything in the regular season. That Ravens game was atrocious. Watson's the 1, Winston's the 2, but Winston's on a 1-year deal, so let's skip Pratt. Let's make him QB3 for this year. He can develop. Then Winston won't re-sign next year. We can make Pratt the number 2 and go from there. But then if that was the case, why would you sign Tyler Huntley before the draft? That's the part that makes no sense. I could at least follow the logic if they didn't get Tyler Huntley and sign him to a contract about a month ago. That's what makes no sense. Again, I would maybe get this if you had Watson, Winston, and DTR. You're giving up on DTR. You want to keep 3 quarterbacks. Maybe you can stash DTR on the practice squad. You can trade him. But then why would you get Huntley? Because Huntley was QB2 in Baltimore. He's a top 50 quarterback in this league in all likelihood. Not saying he's that good, but he's a decent backup. We saw that in Baltimore. You're not going to sign, if you're Huntley, to be a QB4, especially before the draft. It wouldn't make any sense to sign with Cleveland and go from QB2 to QB4. Huntley's going to be QB3 this year. He is going to be QB3. So nothing about this move makes sense. The Browns are clearly not going to draft Michael Pratt. If they are, I don't get why they tried to get Tyler Huntley in the offseason alongside Jameis Winston. There's too many cooks in the kitchen right now for the QBs. I'm not even sure they get an undrafted quarterback. I'm not sure if they get anyone, because again, 5 quarterbacks on the 90-man roster. I just don't see how you're going to split the reps. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's clearly probably on the way out, based on the fact that they got 2 new quarterbacks and the fact that they're showing interest in Pratt and Millen, but I just don't get this move for Michael Pratt. I don't get this move for the Cleveland Browns. I'd be very, very surprised, even despite this top 30 visit, if Michael Pratt is a Cleveland Brown, and if he hears his name called on Friday during day 2, if he goes to Cleveland. I'd be very, very surprised if that happens. I just don't see the fit. I don't see the roster construction. I don't see how this makes a whole lot of sense. This seems like a waste of a top 30 visit, because I don't see where he fits into the plan. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the Browns are cooking up, and we'll have to wait and see what exactly they do with that quarterback room. But Michael Pratt, the Tulane quarterback, he's going to have his suitors. The Cleveland Browns, probably the most shocking of them all, are definitely one of them. But what are your thoughts on Michael Pratt to the Cleveland Browns? What are your thoughts on this top 30 visit? Do you think Pratt will be a good quarterback in the league? What were your thoughts on him at Tulane? What are your thoughts on the Browns quarterback room? Do you like what they're doing there? Getting Winston, getting Huntley. What do you think this means for DTR? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. Interesting stuff happening right now up in Ohio. And that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JaguarGator9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.